On the night of February 24th, 1978, 5 friends from Yuba County, California, disappeared after a college basketball game. It was meant to be an ordinary trip, an evening filled with cheers, snacks, and laughter. But when the morning arrived, their families discovered that none of them had returned home. Days later, their car was found deep in the Plumas National Forest, far off course, and months later, the bodies of 4 of the men were discovered in chilling circumstances. The 5th man, Gary Mathias, was never found. Today, this case stands as one of America's most perplexing mysteries, a haunting story often referred to as the American Dyatlov Pass incident. Join us as we unravel the tragic tale of the Yuba County Five. Let's start with the 5 men at the heart of this mystery: Jack Madruga, Ted Wire, Jackie Hewitt, Bill Sterling, and Gary Mathias. Despite the hardships life had thrown at them, each man had his own dreams, ambitions, and a close bond with his friends. In Yuba County, they were known as the Boys. Gary Mathias, 25. Gary had a past filled with promise and struggle. In high school, he was a standout football player and a born leader. But during his service in the Army, everything changed. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, a mental illness that would transform his life. Gary had moments of clarity and joy. He was known for his humor and charm. But he also had dark periods, marked by paranoia, disorientation, and hallucinations. When on his medication, he was stable, but when off it, he was known to wander miles, experiencing prolonged psychotic episodes. This double-sided life made Gary a complex character, loved by his family, yet often feared by himself. Jack Madruga, 30. Jack was known as a gentle protector. After his own Army service, he worked at Sunsweet Growers until recently being laid off. He took great pride in his turquoise and white 1969 Mercury Montego, the car he lovingly maintained and often refused to let others drive. Jack's family knew him as cautious and grounded, a man who would never risk his car on unfamiliar back roads. He loved music, especially Motown, and enjoyed watching classic television with his family. Although Jack was a private man, his friends knew him as loyal and steady, the kind of person who would never leave his friends behind. Ted Wire, 32. Ted's family described him as a compassionate man with a childlike trust in others. He loved meeting new people and would often wave at strangers on the street, hoping for a friendly wave back. But Ted also had intense fears of the dark, the cold, and anything unfamiliar. His family says that even the slightest change in his surroundings could upset him. Yet, he found comfort in his friendship with Jackie Hewitt. to whom he acted like an older brother. Ted was known for buying things he didn't need, like dozens of pencils at a time, and found great joy in small, simple things. Jackie Hewitt, 24. Jackie, the youngest of the group, had a shy disposition and severe speech difficulties. Despite these challenges, Jackie was athletic and adored basketball. He spent much of his time with Ted, who helped him with tasks that made him anxious. Jackie was loyal to his friends and could be easily led by others. He loved dirt biking on his family's farm, playing with his dog, and spending time with Ted, who often helped him navigate daily life. Bill Sterling, 29. Bill was quiet, compassionate, and deeply religious, known for reading Bible passages to patients in local hospitals. Bill believed in helping those who were in need, even if he himself struggled. He was close friends with Jack and shared the group's excitement about basketball. Bill's family recalls his intense energy, his willingness to help others, and his loyalty to his teammates. He was known to walk long distances and to never turn away from a friend in need. Together, these men were inseparable. They bonded over their shared love for sports and were part of a basketball team called the Gateway Gators. For them, basketball was more than a game. It was a source of pride and accomplishment. Each of these men was a participant in Gateway projects, a program dedicated to helping adults with disabilities and mental health issues. But Gateway had its own dark history. A series of arson attacks, vandalism, and even the mysterious death of its former director, Donald Garrett. The community was left on edge, with many wondering if these events were somehow connected to the men's fate. It was a typical Friday night. The Yuba County Five traveled to California State University, Chico, to watch a UC Davis basketball game. The game was exciting, and the men were in high spirits. After the game ended around 10 p.m., they stopped at Bear's Market, a local convenience store where they picked up snacks, Hostess pies, soda, and a carton of milk. The store clerk would later recall the men seemed happy, sharing a joke as they left. But this was the last time the Yuba County Five were seen alive. Instead of driving south toward their homes in Yuba City, the men inexplicably veered northeast into the mountains, driving up a narrow and rugged mountain road, with each passing mile taking them deeper into isolation. At 5 a.m., Wire's mother was jolted awake by a sense of unease. She rushed to check her son's room, only to find his bed empty. Panic surged through her as she grabbed the phone and called Bill Sterling's mother, desperate for answers. Bill's mother, who had been anxiously awake since 2 a.m., delivered chilling news. Her son hadn't come home either. The alarm spread like wildfire. Sterling's mother had already reached out to the Madrugas. While Wyer's mother alerted the Hewitts wasted no time, heading straight to the nearby Matthias home. The truth hit them like a thunderclap. All 5 men were missing. By 8 p.m., the fear and uncertainty became too much. Madruga's mother picked up the phone and called the police, setting the stage for a mystery no one could have anticipated.
No, it wasn't a normal thing for him to do. He wouldn't just take off like that without calling us and telling us that he was going to be gone and when he'd be back.
Anybody that has seen any of these boys on these pictures or TV casts or anything, if they could know where they're at or anything, would they let us know? Because
Well, just trying to keep it in the public's eye and let people know they are still missing and kind of be on the lookout, so they would be on the lookout for them and to give us any information they could come up with, turn it into to the Yuba County Sheriff's Office for us, and so we could get some kind of a lead on what did happen to these boys. And they have already been done away with, or they are housed up somewhere, and someone has to know where they are and what happened to them.
Lieutenant Lance Ayers of the Yuba County Sheriff's Office took swift action, issuing a nationwide bulletin about the missing boys. For Ayers, this wasn't just another case. It was personal. He had grown up with Wyer and his brothers, attending the same school. The connection weighed heavily on him, driving his determination to uncover the truth behind their disappearance.
As you know, still to this date, we don't have any evidence that would indicate foul play, yet we still consider that as being a high priority. So therefore, our teams are expanding their profiles, trying to find out how and why they do certain kinds of things, perhaps that would lead us to their whereabouts. But basically, that's where we are right now.
Yuba County lawmen call this one of the more bizarre missing person cases they've ever handled. Their only hope now is that one of the search teams turns up something soon, or that someone who knows something will contact them and offer some helpful information.
Four days later, on February 28th, a forest ranger patrolling the area discovered the group's Mercury Montego abandoned on a dirt road in the Plumas National Forest. The car was oddly parked, as if the driver had intentionally pulled over, and yet it was in good condition with no mechanical issues. Inside, police found the wrappers from their snack purchases at Bears Market, game programs from the night of the UC Davis match, and an empty milk carton. The car had enough gas to drive back home. And although there was a minor snowbank near the front tire, the car wasn't stuck. It could have easily been freed with a quick push. Jack wouldn't abandon his car. He was so particular about that car. He loved it. And there's no way he'd leave it unlocked. Something happened out there. Something that just doesn't add up. The families were left bewildered, and even police struggled to find an answer. Why did the men leave their vehicle miles from any shelter or familiar territory in sub-freezing conditions? That night, a local man named Joseph Schoens was out checking the snow conditions on the mountain road, planning a trip with his family. Schoens became stranded when his car hit a snowbank. And as he tried to free it, he suffered a mild heart attack. Desperate and alone, he sat in his car, fighting for warmth. Schoens claimed he saw headlights approaching and heard laughter, voices, and even the sound of a baby crying. Weak and desperate, he called out for help. But the figures he thought he saw never responded. He later noticed a pickup truck's headlights nearby before everything went silent again. Schoens, the man who suffered a heart attack on the mountain the night the men vanished, has long been considered a reliable witness. However, conflicting versions of his story raise questions about its accuracy. One inconsistency concerns how he got home the next morning. In one account, he caught a ride to a lodge where his wife took him to the hospital. In another, he was taken directly from the lodge to the hospital. Even more puzzling is his claim of seeing a pickup truck behind the Montego. Later, he admitted, "I was half conscious, not lucid, hallucinating and in deep pain." Whether I half saw or half imagined the second vehicle, I just don't know. The search for the missing men began with forest rangers combing the area for 5 days. But their efforts were quickly hampered by a sudden blizzard. Around 9 inches of snow blanketed the upper mountain, erasing any potential tracks. Conditions became so hazardous that 2 days later, search teams nearly lost members as snowcats struggled through the deep drifts. March 2nd, around 50 men, some on snowcats, joined the search effort, including Hewitt's father and their dog, Bo, who used a snowmobile to aid in the search. March 7th, searchers expanded their efforts using horseback and four-wheelers. An 8-man task force was formed to coordinate the operation, pooling resources from Plumas, Yuba, and Butte counties. Helicopters were deployed to search the area and nearby valleys. As conditions worsened, the search was called off until the snow could melt. One theory was that the men had detoured to visit a friend Matthias knew in Forbestown, explaining how they ended up so far off their path. Jack Madruga's 23-year-old niece, Kathy, refused to wait for the snow to melt. She feared the men were being held in Forbestown, knowing the type of people Matthias's friend associated with. Determined, she enlisted her best friend Anne and her brother George, who she insisted act as their getaway driver. Before leaving, she told her grandmother to call the sheriff if they didn't return in 2 hours. Once in Forbestown, Kathy directed George deep into the backwoods. The area was notorious for drug dealers, booby traps, and armed residents. As they approached a property with several sheds, Kathy felt drawn to one. Padlocked and overgrown with weeds, convinced Matthias was inside, she pounded on the door and tried to break in, but found no signs of life. George suddenly yelled for them to return to the car. A weathered man stood by the driver's side, gripping a shotgun. When Kathy asked about Matthias, the man denied knowing him and ordered them to leave. When she refused, insisting Matthias was in the shed, the man pumped his shotgun. Defeated, Kathy and the others left. Kathy reported the encounter to the sheriff, who claimed officers searched the property on horseback but found nothing. She doubted their story, knowing the area's traps would have ensnared a horse. Police later said they contacted Matthias's friends in Forbestown, who claimed they hadn't seen him in over a year. Frustrated and disillusioned, Kathy lost faith in the investigation. For months, there was no news as the snow slowly melted on the mountains. Then, on June 4th, 1978, a motorcyclist riding through the area spotted a broken window on a Forest Service trailer. Located about 11 miles from where the men's car had been abandoned. The distance, especially in deep snow and without proper equipment, seemed incredible. A Forest Service snowcat had cleared a path to the trailer on February 23rd, which the men might have followed. Inside the trailer, the motorcyclist discovered the body of Ted Wire.
He was found inside the trailer, lying on the bottom bunk, with 8 sheets pulled over him, in apparently an attempt to keep warm. His shoes were off, and we surmised that his feet were probably very frostbitten, and that it was an attempt to alleviate the pain by removing his socks and shoes.
The next day, the remains of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were found about 11.4 miles from the car, lying on opposite sides of the road. Madruga had been partially eaten by animals and dragged toward a stream, where he was found with his right hand still curled around his watch. Sterling's remains were scattered over 50 feet, with only bones left.
How much longer are you going to continue the search?
Until we find the rest of them, or until there's no hope.
2 days later, Jackie Hewitt's father discovered his son's backbone, along with some clothing northeast of the trailer.
Somebody made them kids do this. They never done it on their own at all. I know they didn't. And he's trying to make us believe that it's stupidity and because they were retarded that they're up here on their own, and there's no way that they've done this on their own. And when they pulled the search off here that I didn't need their help, I'd find my son, and I believe I proved my point. And I'm going to continue till I help find the rest of them too, one way or the other. And that's all I got to say.
A sheriff's deputy later found Hewitt's skull about 100 yards away, which was identified through dental records.
The mourning can begin for some of the families, and in a way, maybe their agony is over. For the lawmen, there lies a bigger job ahead, trying to find the answer to the baffling question of what the men were doing here. Did they get here on their own, and why? Or were they brought here deliberately and left behind to die?
Also found near the trailer were 3 wool Forest Service blankets and a rusted, turned-off flashlight lying by the road. Gary Matthias was never found. Inside the Forest Service trailer, searchers discovered his tennis shoes, leading investigators to speculate that he may have swapped them for Wire's leather shoes. This theory was based on the fact that Wire had larger feet, and Matthias, possibly suffering from frostbite, may have needed the roomier footwear to accommodate swollen feet. Autopsies determined the men had likely died from exposure. But the discoveries in and around the trailer raised more questions than answers. Ted Wire's body, found in the Forest Service trailer, indicated he had survived 8 to 13 weeks after the group's disappearance. He had lost 80 to 100 pounds, weighing just 120 pounds at the time of his death, and his feet were frostbitten and gangrenous, making it unlikely he could walk or even leave the bed. His body was wrapped in tightly tucked sheets, something he couldn't have done himself, suggesting someone else had been with him. Nearby were his belongings, a ring engraved with Ted, his wallet with cash, a gold necklace, and a gold Waltham watch that his family said didn't belong to him or the other men. Strangely, the trailer contained numerous resources that could have helped them survive the freezing temperatures. There were heavy clothing, matches, playing cards, books, wooden furniture, and other flammable materials. But no attempt had been made to start a fire. A propane tank connected to the trailer could have provided heat, yet it went unused. All they had to do was turn that gas on, said Yuba County Lieutenant Lance Ayers. In a nearby storage shed, searchers found a year's supply of sea rations, pre-cooked meals used by the military. The men consumed 36 of them, using an Army P-38 can opener to access the cans, but left most of the food untouched. There were also large supplies of freeze-dried meals that appeared unused. Wire's cause of death was later determined to be pulmonary edema, a condition where fluid fills the lungs, making it increasingly difficult to breathe until the heart fails. This condition can result from several factors, including infection, trauma, or heart-related issues. Without oxygen or medical treatment, neither of which was available in the trailer, the other men could do little to save him. It's possible that his worsening condition prompted the others to leave the trailer in a desperate attempt to seek help. Meanwhile, the families of the men remained convinced that something or someone had forced the group into the wilderness. There was some force that made them go up there, said Jack Madruga's mother, Mabel. We can't visualize someone getting the upper hand on those 5 men, but we know it must have happened. Ted Wire's sister-in-law speculated that the men might have seen something at the basketball game or parking lot that they didn't fully realize was significant. The mysteries of the trailer and the decisions the men made in their final days continue to baffle investigators and haunt those left behind.